In my dealings with people in and around Sheffield, it's become clear to me that many of the people in the Sheffield region still have warm feelings towards Attercliffe. It was their home. I think places are like people. You know, they've all got some God-given gift, if only they could find it. The magic of Attercliffe in the past was its community spirit. The streets here were lined back-to-back houses. There were thousands of them. They'd demolished a lot. They'd get up early before dawn and they'd work in these steel mills. And that's not easy work. I mean, it's hard, heavy, hot, and you earned your crust and staggered out at night just to go back the next day.
The memories that still exist for me from those years are of Attercliffe. These footpaths were absolutely chocker with people at those days. And that's the sort of memories that come back. School days, simple things like being able to buy a Matchbox toy. I mean, you can probably buy the shop now, but in those days, that was a big thing. I absolutely loved it. Absolutely loved those memories. It was absolutely magical. A magical place to be. And I think it could be a magical place to come.
I guess when the industry closed, it was a bit of an embarrassment, and the people left. But they gave their heart and soul to this place. They worked like the devil because they'd get up early before dawn and they'd work in these steel mills. And that's not easy work.
Unlike other derelict parts of Sheffield and of the UK, Attercliffe sat in a prime location. We were interested in introducing, almost draping a green blanket over Attercliffe and making currently sort of derelict spaces, unwelcome spaces, making them places that you'd want to be in and that you'd want to spend an afternoon and go for a walk, and sort of seeding this culture in Attercliffe of harvesting and open source harvesting for the public.
We looked at repurposing Attercliffe, and looking at the edible forest gave us the idea to develop harvesting in Attercliffe and create an industry based off sustainable urban agriculture. CONRAD and Lucas had the idea of making a flagship food production centre which could be replicated on Mars.
We found that although there are billions of dollars being invested globally into getting humanity to Mars, almost no resourcing is being put towards how we will feed ourselves when we get there. Harvesting has always been at the core of any growing community and will be essential to our colonisation of Mars. We began to imagine Attercliffe's identity as a flagship food production hub for intensive urban farming, with applications on Earth as well as future colonies on Mars.
We looked at three key areas: the area surrounding the Adelphi Theatre, the area surrounding the Banner Building, and the area south of the River Don. These were kind of key areas for us and key areas of interest for the clients. We wanted to kind of capture the character of the place and celebrate its existing heritage whilst utilising our Feed a Million kind of typology in this respect. So, for example, if you look at the Adelphi Square outside the Adelphi Theatre, we wanted to create a culture of harvesting. This is our kind of our phase one almost, so pedestrianising the high street, kind of more traditional solutions to kind of urban design and revitalisation. And then moving on to the Banner Building, we want to look at kind of more permanent solutions in our phase two response to our project. And this is kind of where we would create frameworks for our final phase, which is phase three, where we're looking at the most permanent, most radical interventions that could be replicated elsewhere in the project and potentially on Mars. We thought kind of word of mouth would be the best way to kind of gather information. People who've lived there is better than kind of an online resource where we would predominantly be looking before. Moose family came to the area because of the availability of jobs, and this was only as a result of the steel infrastructure and of the steel industry there. And so he's seen the change over time, he's seen the steel industry leave, and he's seen the area fall into decline.
We decided on implementing a phased approach in order to build a long-term foundation for Attercliffe and its community. The first phase is feeding Attercliffe, where we focused on implementing the idea of seeding a culture. Disused vacant green plots and car parks are slowly converted into soft harvesting spaces. This will allow to stimulate community engagement through kind of low-level stakeholder involvement and investment. Abandoned buildings located around Attercliffe Commons are retrofitted in order to rejuvenate the main road, which will slowly be pedestrianized over the 3 phases.
We are thinking of bringing people in to Attercliffe Common by providing living spaces along the high street, and that will populate the area and start to build a residential community.
So phase 2 is feeding Attercliffe. Urban agriculture will be implemented in various areas with the support of a food hub, where research of food and food production will take place. With the support of the growing community and stakeholders, we will allow this food hub to grow within both phase 2 and phase 3. Sprinkles of new builds and extensions will be constructed to support the existing communities and the key workers of the growing food industry in Attercliffe.
The canal will be a great place for people to experience nature and do harvesting, and the beautiful environment will attract more wildlife to set here. Fruit trees are planted along the roadside so that even walking along the road you can feel the joy of the harvest.
So along with our phasing strategy, we've also provided a toolkit for engagement and enterprise, and also for an agricultural toolkit.
For the agricultural toolkit, we wanted to introduce various harvesting typologies such as orchards and orangeries, and for contaminated sites we looked at using a modular system for more controlled harvesting. This will be used along Attercliffe Common. It will then be replicated south of the River Don. In phase 3, we'll add more high-tech structures for other harvesting systems such as aquaponics and hydroponics. This then provides us with a concept for a habitable Mars colony.
One of the key elements of Phase 3 is the procession through the harvest spaces, just south of the River Don. The beginning of the procession, we are taken across the Adelphi in view of the sculpture park. Within the sculpture park displays the symbiotic nature of urban agriculture and the community. The third image looks over the River Don to the food hub, and finally we are at the food hub displaying Attercliffe's ability as an urban powerhouse.
We can now also look to bringing in other enterprises. One of the hotel developments that could be implemented would have a community kitchen, which will bring together international partners with the culture that we have now created in Attercliffe. Now we've established this research facility, we can now look towards providing a food production facility for Mars.
And when you give everything to a place, of course, part of you stays there. I mean, you feel that it's a part of you, and as part of you it becomes very special.
It's been great to work with the clients we've had. We've been really lucky with our kind of clients, and we've managed to work around the constraints of online working.
From the start of the project and looking closely at CONRAD's brief, we really honed in on the idea that what we needed to give was a vision and a new story to Attercliffe. We hope the story of Attercliffe can continue, and we're proud to be part of the beginning of that story.